Hey y'all, it's Coach in the Fight here. Talking about tassels in the Bible. Um, Now I've been wearing tassels for almost 4 years now. When I found them in the scriptures there in Numbers and Deuteronomy, um, I made me some tassels and I put them on and I've been wearing them ever since. Well, the other day, somebody asked me for a set. Now a lot of people have been asking about the tassels. What are they? Want me to, repeat the what they are and tell them the scriptures and all of that. But nobody's ever asked for any before now. And when I presented him with them, he said, "Well, where's the ceremony?" Uh, so I'm not going to give him a ceremony. I don't think that's necessary, but I did want to touch on the verses that, let us know where these things come from and how they speak to be used. So this should be just a quick class on the verses. There's a few verses here we're going to touch on them. Starting with Numbers chapter 15, 38 through 40, where it says, "Speak unto the children of Israel and bid them that they make fringes on the borders of their garments throughout their generations." Okay. Now, this is telling us that, you know, for us who, are Israel, we are to have fringes on our garments throughout our generation. So that's saying forever. So if so, we should have these tassels on now according to, verse 38, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribband of blue, or a ribbon of blue. Okay. "And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it. Okay. And remember all of the commandments of the Lord." And this is the part they like to hear me repeat, It's like, what? So this tassel that I have, or these tassels that I have on my clothes, the way verse 39 says that if I ever find myself in any predicament where I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do in order to follow the commandments of the Lord, I can't remember what command or what the commandment says, well, then I'm supposed to be able to look upon this fringe and on the ribbon of blue that's attached to this fringe and then know the commandments. That's what it says. "And remember all of the commandments of the Lord and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart or your own eyes," meaning, if I do not look at the tassels there, am I going to do my own will? Yeah, that's what it's saying. "After which ye used to go a horn, that ye may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto God." So this is one of the reasons why we wear the tassels, is because it helps us remember the laws, the commandments, and it helps us to keep them. All right. So let's go on. Let's look at another one. Going all the way up here to Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 12. It says, "Thou shalt make thee fringes upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou coverest thyself." So now this was a little complicated. And this is particularly why I didn't show you guys any pictures of these tassels or anything, because I don't want to confuse anybody, have you thinking they're supposed to be looking one way when they're not. But this is talking about how it's supposed to be on the four corners, or the four quarters of our garments, or on the four quarters of our vestures. And, that's the way we do. I have, two on the front and two on the back attached to my belt loops, or attached to my shirt, or, and that's such. Let's go on. Okay. Now, let's go all the way up here into the New Testament. Now, Matthew chapter 9 is when first time we hear about the tassels in the New Testament. And it says, and in verse 9 and 20, it says, "And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment." So these are the tassels. These tassels that Moses, told the people to wear, the Messiah was wearing them. And not only was he wearing them, but the woman came up behind and touched these tassels and healed herself by touching them. That's two significant points. One is that the Messiah was wearing them. Now we learn in the Third Testament that the Messiah did away with a lot of traditions. He didn't do away with any laws, any commandments or such, but he did away with some of the traditions. You remember they had a big falling out about, how his people were not washing their hands while the other ones was washing their hands. So he did away with a lot of the traditions, but notice he did not do away with the tassels when he had them on himself, and he is an example. He is our example. All right, let's go on. Matthew 14 and 36 says, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, and as many as touched were made perfectly whole. So it weren't just the woman with the issue. A lot of people are touching his garments now. Okay, and they're being healed. Not only healed, but they're being made perfectly whole. Now, to me, this means every element in their body, the ones they know about and some they don't even know about, are being healed by touching this garment that the Messiah was wearing. So let's go on. Matthew 25, 3 and 5, 23 and 5. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. He's talking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge their borders of their garments. So here we are. We didn't got the commandment in the Old Testament, but here we are in the New Testament where the Pharisees and the Sadducees are wearing the tassels. But he's saying they're making too big a deal out of them, meaning they're making them too large. They just making them huge for everybody to see them and all of that kind of thing. They're not really being modest. They're not supposed to stand out like big road signs. They're kind of, they're taking it a little too far. That's what he's talking about here. And let's go on. Mark chapter 6 verse 56 says, and whithersoever he entered into villages and cities or countries, they laid the sick in the street and besought him that they might touch of it were but the borders of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. So here these things are, used for healing. We got the woman, then we got the other thing. But look at this. They're bringing the sick people out in the street just so they can touch the fringes of his garment. Wow, let's go on. Last one is 44. Luke chapter 8 verse 44 says, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately the issue of blood was stanched. Going back to the lady who had the issue of blood for 12 years. And we just put them in chronological order, but you can see these are a big deal. We are supposed to wear them. They do have powers. They do stuff for us, but they also do stuff for others. Now, I haven't seen anybody touch the hem of anybody's garments and be healed. But that's the case with the Messiah, and it could be the case with others too. We'll just have to see. Let's put some tassels on and let's find some sick people and see what happens. Hermes Academy. Power of patience, continence, and faith. We teach virtue.